Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chof Aleph Amud Aleph, starting with Chof Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Our Gemara's topic continues to be Pasin la Beirois, walls that surround a water source. Our Gemara specifically discusses the circumstances around using the Pasin la Beirois. Says the Gemara, Amar Yitzchak bar Ada, Lo yehutru pasi beirois. It's only a heter for those who are oile regolim. I asked the Gemara v'hatanyo. It states in the Brisa lohutru pasid beirois elo legabi behema bilvad. So here it's mashma that's used for the behema. Answers the Gemara, my behema. What's the kavanah of the Brisa when it says that the pasin beirois is a heter for behema? Behemas oile regolim. It's for the behema of those who are traveling for the regel. They are able to then make pasin the beiroi, so they can draw water and feed their animals. Aval Odom, continues the Brisa, we're on top of Chof Aleph Amud Aleph, metapes ve'oile metapes ve'yorid. A person, however, he must go into the well and then climb inside, drink inside of the well, and then come out so that he can go ahead and only use the well itself without drawing forth from the Rishus HaYochid into the Rishus HaRabim. Eini asked the Gemara, is it so that's really for the behema of the Ole Regalim? V'homar Rav Yitzchok, Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, Lo hutru pasei lebeirois, elo lebe'er mayim chayim bilvad. It states over here that they only would then permit passing the beiros if it's around a water source which is mayim chayim. So we know that people are finicky and require such water from mayim chayim that's going to be pure. But not only is it finicky, but it will be then able to be drinkable by an adam. But in regards to animals, they don't make a distinction. They can go ahead and drink even waters that are coming from the rainwater. What should it make a difference? Answers the Gemara, we need water that is going to be chazi roi for a person. In order to then make the walls considered to be valid for passing la beirois, we must have water that it's surrounding that's going to be chashuv. So therefore, the chashivus of mayim chayim give it the validity of the walls. But after all, since the water is going to be given to the animals to drink, why is that not chashiv enough? Take a look at Tosfos on Dibar Maschem Midi de Chazi La'odem Ba'inon. The 4th line of Tosfos, where the last line of the wide lines, he asks, V'im Toimar, Amai Ba'inon Midi de Chazi La'odem? Why do we require that it be chazi for a person? Kivan deloy shori ela letzorich behema. So he asked this question: since the whole purpose is in order to draw water for the behemas oile regalim, so why is it not sufficient to just have water mechunasim, that is rainwater that gathers together inside of the bore? Why is it required to be mayim chayim, the status of water that men would drink? Answers Tosfos v'yesh loymar. He gives us 2 different answers. She'im dola letzorich behema v'nishtayru sham shari la'adam. If a person takes out the water from the be'er in order to give to the animal, and there's leftover water, then it's going to be permissible for a person to also use. That which it states soon in the Gemara, that if it's too wide of a be'er, where a person will not be able to then really go inside the be'er and drink within the be'er itself, then it states then it's going to be permissible for a person to also draw forth water. What it means to say, according to this answer of Tosfos, is that he already then drew out for a person, for an animal. Drawing out for an animal permits a person to eat, to drink. But if it's rechavim, then the chiddush of rechavim is that lichatchila, a person can draw out the water for himself. Inami. Alternatively, Tosa gives a second answer. In addition to the first answer that if you're going to draw water for the animal, whatever's left over can be used for a person. He says, and therefore we need water that has the chashivus of mayim chayim. Inami hoda amrinan lo yehutru elu letzorech behema. That which it states, it's only going to be permissible for the animal usage. Hainu tchilas hatikun. That's when you begin making the walls. You have to make the walls for the animal. Aval the shekavar niskan, once it's already erected and made for the purpose of animals, then the tzorech behema shari af the tzorech adam lechatchila. Then if it was made the tzorech behema, then it can then be used even lechatchila, be drawn out to be drawing water for a person. And therefore, as the Gemara will state later on, when it's rechavim, then it's permissible even for the purpose of Adam. That means that lechatchila you can even make the walls for Adam if it's rechavim. Al kapanim, we see a second teretz. Teretz number 2 over here is that we need it to be mayim chayim, because we're saying that once the walls are made, so then a person can also use lechatchila to draw out, so long as the walls were made originally for an animal. So therefore we need mayim chayim. Now Tosfos goes on to say we have a revach, we have a gain over here as well. Because it says, V'osi shapir, hod amar le'el, that which we said in the previous daf, in daf chof amid aleph, chotzer sheroisha nichnas lebein hapasim, muter letaltel mitoicha, lebein hapasim, umeivin hapasim letoicha. It states over there, and daf chof amid aleph on the top, that if you have a chotzer that has its entranceway that goes into passing the beirois, you can carry from the chotzer into the area of the passing the beirois, and vice versa. So he says now we can understand that even better. Now we can explain, based on what we just said now, that that's going to be l'tzorech adam. That's why it's permissible to go ahead and go back and forth, because the passing the beirois is for adam, even though it was initially made to be put up for a behema. Now he can go ahead and use it lechatchila, so therefore it can permit him to then go back and forth to the chotzer. The Gemara, go back into the Gemara. Gemara says now, bringing a statement that we just brought before. Gufa lo hutra pasi beirois elo lebehema bilvad. Aval adam metapes ve'olam metapes ve'yorid. This is the brisa. Now the brisa is now quoted in its entirety. V'im hoyu rechavim afilo adam nami. But if there's rechavim, which we just said now that an adam cannot normally be making the passing the bros for himself to draw water, so therefore he must go inside to drink the water. But it's rechavim, if it's too wide the walls, then the Brisa says that he could go ahead and draw water for himself. And however, he cannot fill up a bucket and put it in front of an animal, meaning holding on to the bucket. But he must then pour out the water into a trough, allowing the animal to drink. Maskif la Rav Anon. Rav Anon asks on this brisa, what we just stated now, the end of the brisa. Im kain, if it's so that he cannot hold on to the bucket while then giving the water to the animal to drink the water, ma ha'ilu pasi beirois. What does it help pasi beirois? Ask the Gemara, ma ha'ilu. What does it help? L'malos mehen, to go ahead and draw forth water. Otherwise, it would be a problem of hoitzah. Now that you made passing the beirois, you're bringing it into a shus hayachid. There's no problem to draw the water. No. What's the kavan? What he said, maho'ilu? Ela maho'il roishe v'ruba shapara. What will help? That which it states in our Mishnah that the para has to have roishe v'ruba inside. If indeed the one who is feeding him is not holding on to the kli, onto the bucket, so then why does the animal have to be roishe v'ruba? If the whole concern is that if he's not roishe v'ruba, then the person who's then giving him to drink may then back out. When the animal backs out of that area, he will then take the bucket of water from the area that's closed in as a Reshus HaYachid, and he'll then bring it into the Reshus HaRabim, and it'll be a malach of hoitzah. So therefore, if over here we're saying that anyways he can't hold onto the bucket, he has to pour it into the trough, so then there's not a concern. Therefore, why should there be Rosh and Rubai? Answers the Gemara, Amar Abaye, Hocha b'mayaskinon be'evus ha'oimed b'rshus harabim gavoya asara v'roichev arbo v'roishe nichnas leben hapasim. Like we saw before in the previous Amud, that here we're talking about a case, a certain gezeira concern, that if indeed he were permitted to take out the bucket of water, he might then bring it to the animal. And the trough, the avus, is an avus that has dimensions of Rishus HaYachid. And he'll see that there's a part of the Rishus, of the avus that is damaged, that he wants to fix. He'll put down the bucket in the Rishus HaRabim. He'll fix it, and then he'll accidentally pick it up again and put the water inside in front of the animal in the Rishus HaYachid. So therefore, there will be a problem of Hoitzah. As a result, we say that he cannot hold the bucket to feed the animal. He must pour it into the trough. Omar Yirmiyahu says the Gemara Vayter Bar Abba Marav Ein Borgenin Babelvel Velopasi Berois Bechusarts. Two halachas, he says. There's no bargaining. In regards to the tchumim, one cannot go more than 2,000 amos outside of the city limits. So we have a case called borgenin. Borgenin means huts, where Shoimrim would use, they would sit in those huts, and if a borgan is going to be within 70 and 2/3 amos of the city, then you can count the 2,000 amos from the borganin. So it says over here, in regards to the area of Bavel, you cannot use this heter of borganin. The Gemara will explain. V'lopasi beirois bechutz la'aretz, and you cannot use the heter pasin beirois in Chutz La'aretz, with the exception of Bavel. Says the Gemara, Borganin miBavel loy. Why can't you use Borganin for extending the 2,000 amos from the Borganin in Bavel? Because the Shchichi Bitki, because there are flash floods that are very common in Bavel, whereby it will wash away the Borganin, these huts, and it'll make it invalid, it'll make it, so it doesn't have chashivus to begin with, so therefore you cannot use them as the city limit, beyond the city limit, to then count your 2,000 amos from there. Pasi berois bechutz la'aretz lo. Why can't you use the heter passing the berois in chutz la'aretz? Again, with the section of Bavel. The lo shchichi mesivta, because there are not mesiftas. Mesifta are not yeshivas, and therefore yeshiva students are going to then be traveling, needing to then use the passing berois. Take a look at Rashi in Dibur Hamasr, the lo shchichi mesivta. It's a little bit higher than parallel to where we are. Says Rashi, Liyos talmidim holchi me'ir le'ir lilmod Torah. There is not commonly found in Chutz La'aretz places of Torah learning that yeshiva students will be traveling from one city to the next. Upasi beirois lehutru ella lo'oile regalim. And pasi beirois is not going to be permissible only for oile regalim. It's a heter for oile regalim. Ulekiyoytse bohen. And also for others, similar things that are going to be traveling for Dvar Mitzvah, like in this case, those who are going to learn Torah. So we see here that the Pasin Beros is not only for the Ole Regalim, but also, says Rashi, the Kiyoitze Behen Shaholchin the Dvar Mitzvah. So therefore in Chutz La'aretz, since there is no Mesivta, therefore you cannot use Pasin Beros. But in Bavel, and certainly in Eretz Yisrael, you could have Pasin Laberois. Aval Ibcha Avdinun. However, in the opposite, we do make, in other words, Burganin in Chutz La'aretz, we will make the concept of 2,000 amos from the Burganin, and Pasin Laberos in Bavel we will make. That's the first lashon of the Gemara. Ike da'amer, there are those that say, another lashon, Omar Rav Yirmiyahu bar Abba Marav, Ein borganin upasin beiraois, loy bebavel bebol chutz la'aretz. There's not going to be either one, not in Bavel, not in chutz la'aretz. Borganin bebavel loy. Why? Because the shchichi bidki that we said before, because bidki, there are flash floods that are present in Bavel, washing away such huts. Therefore, you cannot use the borganin to then count 2,000 amos from. Bechutz nami loy. Why? Because the shchichi ganvi, because there are ganovim that are present and they'll steal the borganin. So therefore, even chutz la'aretz, the borganin don't have significance. Pasi beirois bebavel loy. Why? The shchichi maye, because they have water, so there's no need to then give the head there to make pasi the beirois. Bechutz la'aretz nami loy. Why not? because the lo shchichim mesifta, because as we said before, there are not yesiftas found in chutz la'aretz. So according to the second lashon, that even in Bavel and chutz la'aretz is going to be then invalid to use both borganin as well as pasli beiraos. Now we just had a statement. The two lashonas that we had were in the name of Rab Yirmiyahu bar Abba Omar Rav. So Gemara now brings the following. Omar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda said, Lemari bar brei de Rav Huna, brei de Rab Yirmiyahu bar Abba. Rav Chizda now says to Mari, the son of Rav Huna, who the son of Rab Yirmiyahu bar Abba. In other words, he the grandson of Rab Yirmiyahu bar Abba, who just made the previous statements. And he says, Rav Chizda to him, Amri asisu mi barnash or marnish lebe kanishta de Daniel. They say that you travel on Shabbos from Barnish to the Beis HaKnesses where Daniel davened years before. They built a Beis HaKnesses subsequently in the place where Daniel had davened. The Havet Chlasa Parsa B'Shabto, and it's 3 parsoim that are the distance that you would have to travel. And that's certainly longer, that's certainly a greater distance than the 2,000 amos that you have. Amai samchisu aburganin. Are you saying that you're doing this because you rely on the heter of burganin, that you can count your 2,000 amos from burganin, and therefore, if you have within 70 or so, 70 and 2/3 amos from the city limits, so each one you can count from the outer one 2,000 amos, and that's why you're then traveling such a distance to the area, to the Beis HaKnesset where Daniel davened? Your father said that your father said in the name of Rav, Ein burgani bebavan, as your grandfather said in the name of Rav, that in Bavel there is no burganim. So therefore, how can you go ahead and travel beyond 2,000 amos? Nofak ve'achvelei. So he took him outside and he showed him, he pointed to him. Hanhu misavso the mivlon. He pointed at the distance. He said, he showed him those ruins that were still there, that are mivloim b'shivim amo v'shirayim, that are within 70 and 2/3 amos. So he said, even though you don't have burganin in Bava, but they had these ruins that still had walls that would be valid then to count the 2,000 amos from there. Says the Gemara weiter, once we had Mari Bar Mar, the Gemara brings him back to show us the following drasha. Omar Rav Chizda said, Dorish Mari Bar Mar. Mari Bar Mar made the following drasha. My dichsi, what is meant in the pasuk when it says Lekol Tichla Ra'isi Kates Rechava Mitzvoscha Me'oid. To everything it has its end, but the limitation I could see, with the exception of your mitzvahs that are so wide, so greatly wide and so greatly expansive. In other words, David HaMelech is saying in Tehillim, as much as things have their end, I can go ahead and determine their limits. But when it comes to the Torah, the mitzvah over here is referring to the Torah, it has no limitation. David v'lo pirshoy. David HaMelech said these words that the Torah has a tremendous expanse, but he didn't define exactly how big is the Torah. Omru Iyov v'lo pirshoy. Iyov also similarly said that the Torah is tremendously wide and great, but did not explain exactly that amount. Omru Yechezkel v'lo pirshoy. Similarly, Yechezkel said a similar thing, that the Torah is tremendously great and expansive, but did not define how big. Until the Navi Zechariah came and he did explain. Says the Gemara, Amru David v'lo pirshoy. David HaMelech came and he did not explain. Dichsiv lekol tichla ra'isi kates. For every thing that has an end, I saw its limitation. But rochva mitzvaysecha ma'oid. But your Torah, your mitzvah, referring to your Torah, is so expansive and broad, exceedingly. Omru Iyov v'lo pirshay. Iyov also said, and he didn't explain exactly and define it. Dichsiv aruka me'eretz mida urechava minayam. The Torah is longer than the earth in its measurement, and it's wider than the sea. But again, he didn't define how much wider and how much longer. Omru Yechezkel v'lo pirshay. Similarly, Yechezkel also stated, but he didn't explain. Dichsiv, it states in the pasuk, Vayifrois oiso lefonai, and he spread it out before me. Vihi ksuva panim va'achar, and this scroll, which was a scroll of the oral law, that was then written both in front and behind, in front and the back. Viksiv, and it's written Eileho kinim vehege vahi. The Gemara now explains this last verse, kinim. That which is in Lamentations, Zu Puranuson Shel Tzadikim B'Olam Hazeh. It's the oral law that explains the punishment of tzaddikim, the righteous ones, here in this world. V'chein hu oimer, and similarly it states, Kina hi v'koinenuha. And therefore, when it talks about the Egyptian demise, there it's talking about Kina. Again, Lamentations. So you see that the downfall, the punishment, is a result of, is a definition of the word kinim. V'hege, rejoicing. Zu matan scharan shel tzadikim la'asilov. This is a reference to the oral Torah telling you about the tremendous schar for the tzadikim in the next world. V'chein hu oimer alehi goyon bechinor, and with the singing, by the accompaniment of the kinor, of the violin, of the kinor, the harp. So over here we have again the word vehege is a form of rejoicing and singing. Vehai, when it says the word vahi, rather, woe, zuhi puranos and shorishoim lasilovo. This is a reference that the Torah is telling us about the punishments of the rishoim in the next world. It states also hoiva al hoiva tavoy, a happening of destruction will come. A happening of destruction will come. Again, we see the word hoi, vahi rather, is a reference to a happening of puranos, of destruction, of punishment. So now the Gemara returns to the subject that it started with. He's making a drasha to explain where do we know the definition of how far and wide and expansive is the Torah. Ad sheba Zechariah ben Ido Pirsho, he explained. Dichsiv, vayomer elai ma'at. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to me, what did you see? V'oymar, and Zechariah said, Ani roye megillah ofa. I see a scroll that is folded. Arka ve'esrim ba'ama, v'rochba eser ba'ama. Its length is 20 amma, and its width is 10 amma. V'chi pashtas lo, since he mentioned that it was folded, if you would unfold it, Havile esim be'esim, you then take that which was a square as 10 by 10, and you would unfold it, then you would have a rectangle of 10 by 20. And that's what the Gemara says, V'chi pashtas lo havile esim be'esim. Then you start with a dimension of the length 20 by 10 as the width, and then you open it, so then you're going to have a square of 20 on 20. Viksiv hikesuva panim va'achar. It says in the pasuk that it's written on the front and also on the back. V'chi kilpas lo kama havya. If you would peel it, so then you would then read it side by side, then how much would you left? Arbaim be'esrin will be then a measurement of 40 by 20 amos. Viksiv, and it's written in regards to then the amos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mi modad b'sha'oloi mayim, who measured his fist, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's fist of the water, referring to the sea, v'shamayim bezeres tikein, and the heavens that he established with the zeres, and the zeres is the size of 1/2 amma squared. So it comes out to be 1/2 amma squared would be 1/4 amma. So nimsa kol ha'olam kuloi echad mishloishes alofim mosayim b'Torah. So it says over here that the measurement that we just mentioned now, which was going to be 40 by 40, would be the Torah scroll. That comes out to be 40 by 40. 40 by 20 comes out to be 800 square amos. 40 by 20 is 800. And that, if you divide that by a quarter, which is the zeres, we're talking about the amos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which was a quarter, then it comes out to be 3,200. That means that the Torah is 3,200 times greater than the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. And that's the size, the dimensions that we're referring to over here in all of the different psukim. Here Zechariah defines it for us.